Welcome to the Tough Love Nephilim series. My name is Eric Rollon. Now, according to Genesis 6, the Nephilim were the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men. And today we are talking about the Gibeonites. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to smash those like and subscribe buttons. Alrighty folks, let's get into this one. Historically, the Gibeonites were a Canaanite tribe that resided in Gibeon, which was slightly northeast of the Dead Sea. It is possible that the Gibeonites lived in Gibeah and Geba too, given the proximity of Gibeah and Geba to Gibeon, as well as the similarities between their names. However, the Bible doesn't explicitly say this. Gibeon, Geba, and Gibeah would later be apportioned to Benjamin, following Israel's initial conquest of Canaan, Joshua 18:21-28. Additionally, the Philistines were garrisoned at Geba for a time during the reign of King Saul, 1 Samuel 13. BDB Strong's Concordance reference H1393 defines Gibeonite this way: Gibeonite, little hill, hilly, an inhabitant of Gibeon. BDB Strong's reference H1391 defines Gibeon this way: hill city, a Levitical city of Benjamin, modern Angelegend, which lies 5 miles or 8 kilometers from Jerusalem. BDB Strong's reference H1387 defines Geba or Gaba this way: Gaba or Geba or Gibeah, hill, a city in Benjamin, modern Jeba, which stands on the top of a steep terraced hill, 6 miles or 10 kilometers northeast of Jerusalem, and 3 miles or 5 kilometers from Gibeah, on the edge of the Wadi Suanit, looking northward to the opposite village of ancient Michmash, modern Machmas. BDB Strong's reference H1390 defines Gibeah this way: hill, a city in the mountain district of Judah, a city of Benjamin, birthplace of King Saul, a city in Kiriath Jearim of Ephraim. Smith's Bible Dictionary defines Gibeon this way: Gibeon, hill city, one of the 4 cities of the Hivites, the inhabitants of which made a league with Joshua, Joshua 9:3-15, and thus escaped the fate of Jericho and Ai. Compare Joshua 11:19. Gibeon lay within the territory of Benjamin, and with its suburbs was allotted to the priests, of whom it became afterwards a principal station. It retains its ancient name almost intact, Angelegend. Its distance from Jerusalem by the main road is about 6.5 miles, but there is a more direct road reducing it to 5 miles. Easton's Bible Dictionary defines Gibeon this way: Gibeon, hill city, one of the royal cities greater than Ai, and all the men thereof were mighty, Joshua 10:2. Its inhabitants were Hivites. It lay within the territory of Benjamin and became a priest city. Here the tabernacle was set up after the destruction of Nob, and here it remained many years till the temple was built by Solomon. It is represented by the modern Angelegend to the southwest of Ai, and about 5.5 miles northwest of Jerusalem. A deputation of the Gibeonites with their allies from 3 other cities visited the camp at Gilgal, and by false representations induced Joshua to enter into a league with them, although the Israelites had been specially warned against any league with the inhabitants of Canaan. The deception practiced on Joshua was detected 3 days later, but the oath rashly sworn by Jehovah, God of Israel, was kept, and the lives of the Gibeonites were spared. They were, however, made bondsmen to the sanctuary. The most remarkable incident connected with this city was the victory Joshua gained over the kings of Palestine. The battle here fought has been regarded as one of the most important in the history of the world. The kings of southern Canaan entered into a confederacy against Gibeon, because it had entered into a league with Joshua, under the leadership of Adonai-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, and marched upon Gibeon with the view of taking possession of it. The Gibeonites entreated Joshua to come to their aid with the utmost speed. His army came suddenly upon that of the Amorite kings as it lay encamped before the city. It was completely routed, and only broken remnants of their great host found refuge in the fenced cities. The 5 Confederate kings who led the army were taken prisoners and put to death at Makkedah. This eventful battle of Beth Horon sealed the fate of all the cities of southern Palestine. Among the Amarna tablets is a letter from Adonai-Zedek to the king of Egypt, written probably at Makkedah after the defeat, showing that the kings contemplated flight into Egypt. This place is again brought into notice as the scene of a battle between the army of Ishbosheth under Abner and that of David led by Joab. At the suggestion of Abner to spare the effusion of blood, 12 men on either side were chosen to decide the battle. The issue was unexpected, for each of the men slew his fellow, and thus they all perished. The two armies then engaged in battle, in which Abner and his host were routed and put to flight. This battle led to a virtual truce between Judah and Israel, Judah under David increasing in power, and Israel under Ishbosheth continually losing ground. Soon after the death of Absalom and David's restoration to his throne, his kingdom was visited by a grievous famine, which was found to be a punishment for Saul's violation of the covenant with the Gibeonites. The Gibeonites demanded blood for the wrong that had been done to them, and accordingly David gave up to them the 2 sons of Rizpah and the 5 sons of Michal. And these the Gibeonites took and hanged or crucified in the hill before the Lord, and their bodies hung for 6 months. And all the while Rizpah watched over the blackening corpses, and suffered neither the birds of the air to rest on them by day, nor the beasts of the field by night. David afterwards removed the bones of Saul and Jonathan at Jabesh Gilead. Here, at the great stone, Amasa was put to death by Joab. To the altar of burnt offering which was at Gibeon, Joab, who had taken the side of Adonijah, fled for sanctuary in the beginning of Solomon's reign, and was there also slain by the hand of Benaiah. Soon after he came to the throne, Solomon paid a visit of state to Gibeon, there to offer sacrifices. On this occasion, the Lord appeared to him in a memorable dream, recorded in 1 Kings 3, 5-15, and 2 Chronicles 1, 7-12. When the temple was built, all the men of Israel assembled themselves to King Solomon, and brought up from Gibeon the tabernacle and all the holy vessels that were in the tabernacle to Jerusalem, where they remained till they were carried away by Nebuchadnezzar. The first mention of Gibeon in the Bible is during Israel's conquest of Canaan in Joshua 9. In this chapter, the Gibeonites, in an effort to avoid complete and utter destruction, they pull a fast one on Israel and broker a peace agreement. We're going to unpack the whole Joshua 9 event in context as we learn some very key things about the Gibeonites and their future from it. Back in Joshua 8, Israel made war on the city of Ai. In the ensuing battle, Israel defeated and killed not just the wicked king of Ai and his army, but every last man, woman, and child in the city, and then burned the whole place to the ground. Joshua 9 opens with several Canaanite kings, those of the Hittite, Amorite, Canaanite, Perizzite, Hivite, and Jebusite tribes, coming together with the express purpose of joining forces to fight against Joshua and the army of Israel. Joshua 9, 1-2. This, of course, was in direct response to Israel's conquest of the city of Ai. Well, the Gibeonites heard about what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai, and decided that they did not want to choose the way of pain. So they devised a plan to avoid eradication. Deciding not to align themselves with the other Canaanite tribes, the Gibeonites thought quickly. Grabbing up their dried-up crumbly bread, loading up their donkeys with worn-out sacks and split-open wineskins, donning old tattered clothing and blown-out sandals, and then journeying to meet Joshua at the camp at Gilgal to offer themselves up as servants. Joshua 9, 3-6. They then convinced Joshua and the Israelites that they had traveled from a distant land after hearing of the fame of the Lord God and how Israel soundly handled the 2 Amorite kings, Og, king of Bashan, and Sihon, king of Heshbon. Joshua 9, 7-10. As their story unfolds, we learn in verse 7 that the Gibeonites were Hivites. This fact is reinforced in Joshua 11:19. Additionally, it appears that the Hivites were part of the Amorite conglomerate, as we'll learn later in 2 Samuel 21 that the Gibeonites were a remnant of the Amorites. More on that in a bit. Now, after hearing about the Gibeonites' hardships, Joshua and the Israelites made a peace agreement with the Gibeonites. However, Israel failed to seek out the counsel of the Lord in making this decision. Joshua 9:11-15. 3 days after the terms of peace had been agreed to, Israel learned that they had been hustled by the Gibeonites, and that the Gibeonites were in fact their neighbors. Joshua 9:16. After learning this, the sons of Israel marched right out and came to the cities of the Gibeonites, which, according to Joshua 9:17, included Gibeon, Chephirah, Beeroth, and Kiriath-Jearim. Joshua did not, however, attack the Gibeonites, as Israel feared that they would suffer the Lord's wrath and righteous indignation if they went back on their word that they swore to the Gibeonites. Joshua 9:18-19. God, of course, did not want Israel to make peace with any of the Canaanite tribes. Exodus 23:28-33 and 34:10-16, as well as Numbers 33:50-56 and Deuteronomy 7:1-4. But if an oath is sworn, God demands that oath be adhered to. Numbers 30:1-2 and Deuteronomy 23:21-23. I'm sure the Israelites were pissed that they had been taken for fools, but the elders spoke to them and insisted that they keep their word. So Joshua called the Gibeonites, who threw themselves upon Israel's mercy when Joshua confronted them about their deception. In penance for their shisty move, Joshua conscripted the Gibeonites and their descendants to be slaves of Israel forever, gatherers of firewood and drawers of water for the congregation of Israel and the altar of the Lord. Joshua 9:20-27. Israel held true to the agreement they made with the Gibeonites for years and years, even going so far as to protect Gibeon from hostile Canaanite armies. Joshua 10 details how Joshua comes to the aid of Gibeon and defends them against a confederacy of 5 Canaanite kings and their armies in a battle that is commonly referred to as the Long Day of Joshua. Things got so hot in that engagement that God himself slaughtered many of the Canaanite warriors by hurling enormous hailstones out of heaven at them. Oh, to have been alive to see that awesome and terrifying event unfold from beginning to end. Now, despite all this, we learn in 2 Samuel 21 that at some point before David's reign, King Saul, in an effort to destroy the Gibeonites, attacked and killed some of them, breaking their peace treaty. Now, as a result of this grave error, Israel came under a curse and suffered famine for 3 years straight during the reign of King David. David sought out the Lord for a reason for the famine and was clued in to the impetus behind God's harsh punishment. 2 Samuel 21, 1-2 reads as follows. Now there was famine in the days of David for 3 years, year after year. And David sought the presence of the Lord. And the Lord said, It is because of Saul and his bloody house, because he put the Gibeonites to death. So the king called the Gibeonites and spoke to them. Now the Gibeonites were not of the sons of Israel, but of the remnant of the Amorites, and the sons of Israel had made a covenant with them. But Saul had sought to kill them in his zeal for the sons of Israel and Judah. Now, following this revelation, David asks the Gibeonites what he could do for them and how he could make amends so that they would bless the inheritance of the Lord. The Gibeonites requested that 7 of Saul's sons be given over to them, that they might be hanged for his transgressions. David did as the Gibeonites asked. 7 sons of King Saul were hanged to death, and God relented from his punishment of Israel and lifted the famine off of their lands. 2 Samuel 21, 3-14. As I just read, the Gibeonites were of the remnant of the Amorites. Genesis 10:15 through 18 names the Amorites and the Hivites not just as Canaanite tribes, but as progenitor Canaanite tribes. Genesis 10:15 through 18 reads as follows. Canaan fathered Sidon, his firstborn, and Heth, the Jebusite, the Amorite, the Girgashite, the Hivite, the Archite, the Sinite, the Arvadite, the Zemarite, and the Hamathite. And afterward the families of the Canaanites were spread abroad. As God is pronouncing judgment on Israel in Amos 2, he speaks of the Amorites' great size. Amos 2:9 through 10 reads as follows. Yet it was I who destroyed the Amorite before them, though his height was like the height of cedars, and he was as strong as the oaks. I also destroyed his fruit above, and his roots below. And it was I who brought you up from the land of Egypt, and led you in the wilderness for 40 years, so that you might take possession of the land of the Amorite. Now, as previously stated, we know from Genesis 10:15 through 18 that the Amorites, Hivites, and by extension the Gibeonites were Canaanites. In Numbers 13, when Israel's spies returned from their 40-day reconnaissance mission in the land of Canaan, they gave their report of the land and its fierce inhabitants. They identified the Canaanites, along with the Amalekites, Hittites, Jebusites, and Amorites residing in the land, as the descendants of Anak. Numbers 13:28 through 29. Now, after the initial report, which freaked everybody right out, Caleb steps up to calm everyone down and encourage them, but 10 of the 12 spies coming back from Canaan were having none of it. In their continued report in Numbers 13:30 through 33, those 10 spies went on to describe the sons of Anak not just as people of great height, but as Nephilim. Numbers 13:30 through 33 reads as follows. Then Caleb quieted the people before Moses and said, We should by all means go up and take possession of it, for we will certainly prevail over it. But the men who had gone up with him said, We are not able to go up against the people, because they are too strong for us. So they brought a bad report of the land which they had spied out to the sons of Israel, saying, The land through which we have gone to spy out is a land that devours its inhabitants, and the people whom we saw in it are people of great stature. We also saw the Nephilim there. The sons of Anak are part of the Nephilim, and we were like grasshoppers in our own sight, and so we were in their sight. Now, in this passage and in Genesis 6:4, the Septuagint renders Nephilim as giants, and as a progenitor Nephilim tribe, the Anakim were enormous, fierce, and powerful giants, as Numbers 13 and Deuteronomy 9 collectively point out. Deuteronomy 9:1 through 2 reads, Hear Israel, you are crossing the Jordan today to go in to dispossess nations greater and mightier than you, cities that are great and fortified to heaven, a people who are great and tall, the sons of the Anakim, whom you know and of whom you have heard it said, who can stand against the sons of Anak? Now Anak was the son of the Nephilim Arba, Joshua 15:13 and 21:11. Now according to Joshua 14:15, Arba was the greatest man among the Anakim. Now, though the Anakim were a tribe unto themselves, it is important to note that the term Anakim is also used to refer to a combination of 6 other Canaanite tribes and conglomerate tribes in Numbers 13:28 through 33. The Bible also seems to occasionally use the term Anakim, sons of Anak, descendants of Anak, and the sons of the Anakim, not just as tribal references or distinctions, but as general terms for the post-Diluvian Nephilim, or Rephaim. Numbers 13:28 through 33, Deuteronomy 1:26 through 28, and 9:1 through 2, as well as Joshua 11:18 through 23. In the Bible, there is one recorded confrontation between Israel and the Gibeonites, and that is in 2 Samuel 21:1. This is when Saul had killed some of the Gibeonites in a prior engagement. Unfortunately, when is not specified. We understand, though, from the context that Israel did in fact win that engagement. The aforementioned conflict with the Gibeonites is only briefly mentioned in 2 Samuel 21. And as previously mentioned, the ignoble act was carried out by King Saul as he errantly slaughtered the Gibeonites, with intent to kill every last one of them. Unfortunately, we just don't know exactly when this whole sordid event took place. The final mention of Gibeon in the Bible is in Jeremiah 41, which details the events surrounding the murder of Gedaliah. All that said, the Gibeonites were either a Nephilim tribe or a hybrid tribe, whose gene pool was infected with Nephilim DNA. Thank you so much for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you learned a thing or two. If you did indeed enjoy, then please smash those like and subscribe buttons and hit that notification bell. Also, if you enjoy my work and feel like supporting it, then stop on over to my locals page. Donors there all get access to PDFs of my research papers as often as I can get them posted, and your support is very much appreciated. You'll find all my links in my description box down below. Alrighty folks, till next time, take care and God bless.